everyone, I'm going to show you how to put the backing onto your mat today. But of course, as soon as I put anything onto my cutting table, guess who comes to join us? He just cannot bear the idea that something else is getting more attention than him. We'll just move him away. Okay, so you've done your mat and now you're going to back it. And you go in your pack, you've got a piece of lovely fleece like this to back it with. So put that piece down first, your soft fleece down first, right side facing upwards. Then take your mat and turn it facing downwards on top of it. Then what you want to do is pin around the outside I like to do it quite close together because the fleece moves as you're trying to sew it. So make sure you put plenty of pins in when you're going around, and this is what I would have done, and this is what I did do. But you can see that I've actually already stitched it around this particular one. It's a good idea to have the fleece on the bottom when you put it through the sewing machine. It doesn't seem to pucker and pull the same if you do it that way around. So in this case, I have already stitched it around, and I've left a gap of about 10 centimeters at the top. If you leave it in the middle of one of your sides, then when you bag it out, you've already got your corners in place, and it's easier to just tuck that small piece in. So what I would then do is just trim the corners off, making sure that you don't cut through your stitching, because you don't want to hold in your corners. Okay, then I'll just take those pins out again. Okay, so it's all stitched through, and then you just have to bag out your mat. So I just put my hand in there and pull it out through the little hole that you left in your stitching. Not sure where the term bagging out came from, but I presume it's got something to do with making bags and lining bags in the days of old, and the way that they would have turned them out like this, or turned them around like this. So poke your corners through so they're a bit sharper. A bit of a thread hanging out here, let's trim that off. Got 1, 2. Nice and sharp. Fleece doesn't iron really very well, so normally what I would do is just to pin this all in place once I've done this. Right, now you can see here that this is where your hole is. So now you just turn your fleece over and also your fabric over like this, and just put a few pins in to hold it in place. You can already see here that it's actually quite a challenge with a stretchy fabric, adding it to a non-stretch fabric. There's already a little bit of a bulge there, but try your best to get that as flat as possible. But if you end up with a little bit, don't worry too much. As I said before, this is not a sewing competition. We're just doing something to challenge ourselves. Okay, so once you've got that in place, then you can go around, if you like, the whole thing and just pin it into place, pin it down nice and flat like this, so that you can then go around and sew it. So that's what you would do. Okay, just pulling it out, teasing it out at the side so that your seam is lying flat against the edge, just like this, like that. Okay, and of course now you can see why I was going on so much about making sure that things are not too close to the edge, because otherwise you can't stitch around. So I've actually finished this blanket off just to make it the video quicker, and you'll see that this one has been pulled through, and I have top stitched this one. So in this case I've done a one row of stitching very close to the edge, and that's the row of stitching that would actually sew up that hole. So that's why you want it quite close to the edge there. So I've got one row of stitching around the edge, and then I've just taken another row of stitching a little further in just to give it a nice border. But you don't have to do the second row of stitching, that's up to you. It's completely optional. And that's your fidget mat, minus all the threads. That's your fidget mat finished.